and Snow Farm for hosting this. It's so wonderful to be in community with people who are concerned in this moment. I think this is probably the 50th town hall forum that I have been to, and everyone has been a pleasure. It's fun for me to be able to share the work that my office is doing with the community, and I'm really happy to be here tonight. Over the past 9 months, I have found that Vermonters, wherever I go, want to hear about one thing, and that is what my office is doing to hold accountable those who are violating the Constitution and federal law on the federal level. I always like to begin when I talk on this subject by acknowledging something that for some people in this room might be, hard to hear, and that is that Americans elected, can you hear me? Yes, okay. Americans elected Donald Trump to be their president, and he has every right to install his vision for the country in place. That is what Americans asked him to do, right? But he doesn't have any right to violate the Constitution or federal law, and that's where my office comes in. We have joined forces with other state attorneys general who are also standing up for the Constitution, and it has been a long past 9 months, I can tell you. I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution when I was sworn into office in January, and I think I've thought of that oath pretty much every day since then. I think that anyone who's observing can see that President Trump has shown a contempt for the Constitution, for Congress's independent authority, for the sovereignty of Vermont and all the states in this country. And the common thread of what we can see is a desire to consolidate power within the executive branch, within the presidency, within himself. But this is America, and thank you. Perfect. In America, we believe in the rule of law, we believe in the separation of powers, we believe in federalism, in the sovereignty of the states, and importantly, we have no kings in this country, right? And I always like to joke that we have one queen, and that's Beyonce, but that's it, that's the only one. So at this point in time, I have sued the Trump administration 29 times. When I announce that, I always get a cheer, but actually it's kind of depressing. Wouldn't it be great if we just thought, well, we'll do other stuff, all the other things that are facing Vermont that we could be spending our time focused on. Instead, we're playing defense, we're defending the things we already have. And it is really disappointing. I don't like that I've had to bring those lawsuits, but in doing so, we have preserved literally tens of millions of dollars from coming to the state that Congress had appropriated and that the Trump administration was trying to withhold. And we have done a lot of other good with the work that we've done on those lawsuits. So it's worth it, of course, but it's disappointing because Vermont has real problems right now. We have problems like housing and our environmental concerns, the drought that we're experiencing. I was dismayed to come over to South Hero and see at the Sandbar how different it looks from when I usually come here. So we have real problems, and instead I've been very busy, as Marilyn said, suing Donald Trump. I have blocked many unconstitutional and illegal acts by the Trump administration. The 29 lawsuits are ongoing. Lawsuits take years to resolve. During the first Trump administration, we sued 62 times over 4 years. So we're almost halfway there, and we're only at 9 months. But the 62 lawsuits, some of them are still going when Donald Trump left office. They take a long time. So what we're seeing now is motions practice. When you literally move the court to get involved early on. When you're likely to win, the court will get involved and say, you're not going to do this, Trump administration. And that's what we've been successful doing. Every time the Trump administration violates our Constitution or the federal law, as the sovereign state of Vermont, we are going to bring a lawsuit when we are harmed. That's just what my job is, to protect Vermont, to protect Vermonters, and to protect our democracy in this country. So I wanted to draw your attention, if you're curious in learning more about these lawsuits, we have a page on our website. If you just go to ago.vermont.gov, the landing page has an American flag button, and you click on it, you can find a chart. It has all the summary of the cases we filed, the Friends of the Court briefs we filed. That's when we file a motion or a paper in someone else's case that Vermont kind of has something to say, but we're not a party to that case. And we also have a lot of different guidances for people on DEI, on immigration, and things like that we've included there. So if that's of interest, I wanted to draw your attention to it. Our lawsuits cover a wide variety of topics. It used to be that I would come to a forum and I would give you an update on each of the lawsuits, but now there's too many. So I kind of group them. So the first thing I'll notice, or note for you, is that there's a wide variety, and here's just a sampling. There have been attempts to dismantle the federal government early on. There's been inventing fake emergencies to justify tariffs, usurping gubernatorial authority to call up the National Guard, and environmental laws, voter disenfranchisement, encumbering grants with illegal like DEI requirements that aren't related to the grants that Congress had appropriated, violating Americans' data privacy, unconstitutionally withholding money Congress appropriated, and many more things. There's more lawsuits that are on the way, unfortunately. And I wanted to tell you, because we don't have time for me to give you an update on every single case, nor could I remember actually all of the updates because there's so many now. But I've noticed themes. So I was going to highlight for you the themes. I thought that would be interesting. The first theme I've noticed is trying to do something that the Constitutional says is somebody else's job, like Congress. In the Constitution, and I noticed there's constitutions in the back of the room, so if you wanted to get yourself a copy, if you haven't read it in a while, they're there in the back of the room. But the Constitution explicitly gives Congress the so-called power of the purse. They, in the spending clause, they get to spend the taxpayers' dollars. So when they make an appropriation, the administration under the president is just supposed to, carry out the appropriation. So that's theme one. We're not seeing that. The other is not respecting what laws have to say of someone else who's in power, like governors. Governors under the statute are the ones who declare an emergency and call up the National Guard. It's only in very, very, very narrow circumstances, when there's an insurrection, basically, can someone else do that. And even then, I think the governor needs to be involved. So this is a theme the federal government has repeatedly, or the federal judiciary has repeatedly upheld that concept when states have sued, when there's a National Guard that's getting called up contrary to what the governor wants. The second theme is an attempt to diminish the power of the powerful. Remember early on it was law firms that were very powerful, colleges that were very powerful, even individual states would be in that category. The third theme is trying to corner the powerful in agreeing to do something they don't have to do. So we're only going to give you this grant if you agree to cooperate with our immigration enforcement personnel, even though we wouldn't normally have to do that because Congress didn't put that in the grant. So that's the third thing. The fourth is making up of the fake emergencies. So sometimes the Constitution will give someone, not the president, power, but later there will be an emergency, a statute that's created just for emergencies. So the tariffs is an example of this. Normally, it's not the president who gets to launch tariffs, but there was an emergency statute put in place, and so he's saying, oh, there's an emergency, so that he can justify using that statute. And the fifth one I call just a general category of shenanigans, but that has a similar theme, which is usurping the power that was granted to the president. So when I look at our lawsuits now, I'm not the one who's doing the drafting, right? But I get to the lawsuit, I read it over, and I get to the back of the lawsuit. That's where all the laws that are violated are mentioned, and they're always the same laws. It's always the same aspects of the Constitution. It's always the same law. It's the Administrative Procedures Act is the law that tells the administration how to conduct business, and that one is repeatedly violated. So those are the themes for you. I find that it's very dispiriting to list all of these violations, to say that we have sued this many times, and people feel despair. When I'm out there talking to people, people are really worried. I mean, I've had many people come up to me, they'll start talking and they're in tears. They're so worried about Vermont and about our country and the state of things. And I want to reassure you that in all of this chaos, I truly am a patriot who will always stand up for our country. And I want to reassure you, I will always be there in the Attorney General's office fighting for Vermont, fighting for Vermonters, and fighting for our country. It's so nice to be with all of you tonight. One of the things that has been a surprise for us in the Attorney General's office, early on, we're nose to the grindstone, we're working weekends, we're working nights, we're texting each other at 7 in the morning on a Sunday to try to, get these lawsuits understood and filed. And quickly, people started writing our office thank you notes, like emails, and actually like thank you notes that you fold over and say thank you on the front, like you send your aunt when she sends you a Christmas present. And we started getting so many. I said, we have to put them on a bulletin board so that when we come in the morning, we can see them and everyone can be reminded what great work we're doing. Because I go out, you say thank you, and I soak it in, but the rest of the team, I wanted them to get all the thank yous too. And we literally ran out of bulletin boards. We finally just said, okay, pick your favorites. We'll put it on this one big bulletin board. So we have one big bulletin board with a lot of the thank you notes. But I have heard your thanks, and I want to say thank you because it really is uplifting. And I also always pass it on to my team. When they're here, there's 2, now 3 lawyers who are working really hard on all this, and I always shout them out if they're in the audience. They're not here tonight, but I'm very proud of the work that they're doing and just their incredible devotion to the state of Vermont. They are working overtime, and it's been just so uplifting to see the dedication among the staff. I know that many people are feeling anxious and scared, and I understand that feeling of helplessness because lucky me, I have a job to do. I get to, analyze these situations, bring the lawsuits if appropriate, but I wanted to say a few words about what you can do. I think that can be uplifting. I always like to quote, I'm the daughter of hippies, and I always like to quote Joan Baez, who said, action is the antidote to despair. And you know that, those of you in Indivisible, you know that action is the antidote to despair. So why not exercise your fundamental rights and freedoms? Speak up, attend a protest, petition your government, write an op-ed to your local paper, support the free press, buy a banned book. Organize a carload of friends to go to volunteer for a candidate you support. Remember, the midterms are just around the corner. They're next year, and there's a lot of purple districts that are vulnerable, and maybe a congressperson you like better could be elected there. Send a note of support to someone fighting for something you care about. Don't buy from corporations that don't share your values. Donate to a local organization doing work that matters to your community. We are Vermonters. This is a timely a line that I've written. We weather storms together, sometimes not intense. We're mucking out each other's basements when there's a flood. We are shoveling each other's cars out of snowbanks. We are showing up for each other, and that's Vermont's values, to care for our neighbors. And that is something that we can keep doing every single day, is practice and exercise the values that we have here in Vermont. So don't despair. Know that our country is strong. As Marilyn had indicated, it really is a country that was built to be by the people, of the people, and for the people. It's for all of us participating in democracy and fighting for the country that we love. So with that, I will say thank you for coming tonight, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Attorney General Clark, I came over 2 hours to meet with you tonight because I knew we would find really patriotic Vermonters here, people who really know Vermont. And I came to you to plead from my heart to defend Vermont because we are under a tremendous threat right now, and it has to do with federal oversight of our regulatory bodies. So an out-of-state company, ITW, came into Vermont and they filed an application on our Public Utilities Commission to build a tower at Lake Willoughby. In that, during the process, they sued the state of Vermont, the Public Utilities Commissioners by name. And in that suit, they asserted that the regulatory body of the Public Utilities Commission has no rights to regulate them, that federal authority is what is happening here. They claimed federal jurisdiction because they were building a radio tower, and they claimed that this radio tower could provide personal wireless service. And they cited the 1996 Telecommunications Act against Vermont, stating in that act, Vermont had no ability to prohibit personal wireless service providers from putting up towers where they want to, and they had federal authority. Well, this seemed outrageous to me, so I went and looked to see the application that ITW had submitted to the Public Utilities Commission. And that did not have anything in the plans that could provide what was defined in their lawsuit under the 1996 Telecommunications Act as personal wireless service. They were providing a municipal service, which is a licensed wireless service, and they were putting up a radio tower with no panel antennas that could broadcast it, but they put space on the antenna for these panel antennas. And here's the threat to Vermont. The Public Utilities Commission approved that plan, and then the ITW dropped their threat after it was approved. Now,
Excuse me, sir, we're trying to keep it to 2 minutes so everyone has a chance.
I'm going to finish right now. ITW, once they get approval from Vermont, they can go use that Telecommunications Act that they were citing and actually assert federal authority over Vermont's regulatory body. And then they can put any kind of tower they want next to Lake Willoughby, our national natural landmark. They want to put an enormous cell tower right next to Lake Willoughby in view. This morning I was there. People from India, people from Europe came all the way to see our national natural landmark. And it is under threat, and Vermonters and your ability to regulate is under threat by an out-of-state company that came into Vermont, filed a fraudulent lawsuit against a Vermont regulatory body, the PUC, and we need defense. I came here to plead for you to stick up for Vermont's future, to keep out-of-state companies from coming into Vermont, threatening and suing with fraudulent lawsuits that you can easily check. You take the lawsuit and their pleadings, you take the law that they cited, and you take the plan that they submitted, and that is it. They do not match.
Sir, I want to make sure we have time.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Fleece. I think you know I've contacted you on numerous times about this.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for making a long trip. Who doesn't love Lake Willoughby? It's beautiful. We do defend the PUC when they get sued, so I can tell you that. But I actually don't know a whole lot about that. But I'm sure.
Well, the
we can
PUC
connect
should have asked you for a written opinion on that when they were sued, and they didn't.
If we can connect you to a constituent services person to help answer your questions.
I've been calling your office daily.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Great. Someone's probably already working on it then.
I hope so.
Are there other questions in the audience? I see one back here.